Thank you all for joining us today. I'm Chris Delaney, COBB VP of Marketing and Corporate Communications. Today's webinar will be covering how the COVID-19 pandemic has impacted our local community and what we all can do to help. We will also have a presentation after our roundtable discussion from COBB's Community Foundation Vice Chairman, Vicki Tardif. A few housekeeping items before we begin. First, based on the device you're viewing this webinar on, you may have a few different options to toggle your view. You may be able to select presenter view or panelist view. Either is fine, and it's all personal preference. You'll also notice that the chat is not enabled since this is a webinar event. However, you will see a Q&A box where you can submit questions to our panelists, and we will do our best to get through as many of those as we can during the Q&A session at the end of the panel. And one final reminder before we get started, please stay on until the end of today's webinar to be eligible to win one of 10 $25 bill credits. And with that, I will now introduce our panel. Our moderator today is Jennifer Pinedo. Jennifer works in our consumer marketing department here at COBB, and she has worked on many of COBB's community outreach initiatives. Our first panelist is Dawn Reed, president and founder of Aloha to Aging. Our next panelist, Yvonne Byers, serves as the senior director of neighborhood pantries for Must Ministries. Our third panelist, Natalie Rutledge, serves as the Executive Director of Communities and Schools of Georgia in Marietta, Cobb County. And our fourth and final panelist is Belisa Urbina, Executive Director of Surf Familia. Our panel has important information to share with you all today. And so without further ado, I will hand it over to Jennifer.
Thank you so much, Chris, and good afternoon, everyone. It is my honor to moderate our panel this afternoon, and to learn alongside our members what impact COVID-19 has had in our community. So before we jump into our panel discussion, let's learn a little bit more about what each organization does in the community. And we'll go kind of in alphabetical order here by organization. So Dawn, we can start with you in Aloha to Aging.
Well, aloha, everybody, and thank you so much. So Aloha to Aging has been around for over 11 years now. We serve Cobb, Cherokee, DeKalb, Fulton, and Paulding counties. And now, thanks to COVID, we actually are serving people nationally, which is really pretty exciting, actually. What we do, we work with families, usually with aging issues. We work a lot with communities, the schools, the senior centers, area businesses, to make sure that we are educating everybody on what it is to age. So we have different programs that we actually bring into schools, middle schools, high schools, colleges, as well as the senior centers and, like I said, area businesses. We also are really about those that are caring for aging loved ones. So whether it be a spouse, family member, long distance or locally, we provide caregiver support groups and education. We also provide caregiver support groups for Parkinson's disease, as well as dementia and just overall caregiving. One of the other things that we are very proud about that we provide are volunteer opportunities, and really Aloha to Aging, the whole heart of Aloha to Aging is our volunteers. We've been very, very fortunate and blessed over the last 11 years to have wonderful volunteers ranging in age from middle school all the way through to in their 80s. So that's been a really wonderful gift that we've all been given. So the other opportunity that we have is that we provide, in addition to the education, we also provide a therapeutic programming, and that would be through exercise as well as our beloved Aloha Day Club. So we have been providing the Aloha Day Club from the very beginning, and that is for 50 and over that need stimulation mentally, physically, emotionally, outside of their home. So it's usually people that are being cared for in their home, and they come to different locations, either in West Cobb or East Cobb. And for 3.5 hours, we do an adult day respite. And that has been volunteer-based from the very beginning. And again, a beautiful gift for both the participants, the family members to get the respite break, as well as the participants and volunteers. And those are the key things that we do, but I would say the volunteers are a key component to everything that we provide. So whether it be the wellness education programs, the Aloha Day Club, the food, the art, the games, and especially the fundraising. So we've been very fortunate to have been involved not only, like I said, in those different counties, but now we've actually got several volunteers that are coming from us nationally, which has been, again, a beautiful gift for this time.
Thank you so much, Dawn. And Natalie, we will go to you next with communities and school.
Thank you so much for allowing me to join y'all today. And thank you to COBB EMC and COBB EMC Community Foundation. Communities in Schools was founded over 40 years ago with the vision to give students and families the resources and support that they need in accountability, coordination, and the support that to address their academic and non-academic needs in the vulnerable school population communities and schools. We place site coordinators in schools to collaborate with school leadership to address the needs of the schools, and I individually support students to help them address their challenges for their academic success. Our wraparound student model of support is the leading dropout prevention organization in the country. And economic studies have shown that for every $1 that is invested in communities and schools, the return on investment is about $11.20. Communities and Schools empowers students and families with resources and skills to create a healthy economic cycle, to provide a strong educational foundation, addressing those barriers of success with college career focus, to giving better employment opportunities and the financial resources to reinvest in their community. Communities and Schools supports with basic needs, individual support, tutoring, mentoring. We collaborate with many organizations in our community. Literacy is a focus for us with third grade literacy rates. It's the age of which you go from learning to read to reading to learn. Pre-pandemic, we were able to support 5,400 students last year with financial literacy programming with our Reality U financial literacy program, and have pivoted that program to provide it as in our new virtual reality. And we also support with college career development. We've supported our students and families with emergency food and shelter funding to help create sustainability for them in these pandemic times, and volunteer opportunities with us are for tutoring, mentoring, and if you have any programming that you feel would be supportive and beneficial for the students, we ask you to join us in helping be a part of the team to help support our students' success. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you so much, Natalie. And I know a part of our webinar towards the end is really how can members plug themselves into the nonprofits, because they've shown interest in the emails, comments they send to us. What can they do in the community? So that will be great to highlight. And up next, we have Yvonne with Must Ministries. Yvonne, you may be muted.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for allowing us to share today. And on behalf of Must Ministries, our mission is simple: serving our neighbors in need, transforming lives and communities in response to Christ's call is our mission. And we have been doing that for 49 years in Cobb County. For 49 years, Must has proven that we can, we will, and we must. And we do that in 4 pillars. We provide food. We provide food in different communities. In schools, we have 39 pantries in schools in Cherokee and Cobb County. We provide food at our Elizabeth Inn shelter. We also have 3 locations, one in Marietta, one in Smyrna, and then one in Cherokee County, which we provide food at those 3 locations as well. Our housing, we have the Elizabeth Inn shelter in Marietta on Cobb Parkway, And as many of you probably already know, we're in the process of building a new shelter as well because of the growing needs for housing. In addition, we have permanent supportive housing where we're moving our clients from our shelter environment into more stable housing. In addition, workforce development. So we're working with our clients not only to provide the basic needs of food and housing, but not just giving them a handout, but helping to give them a hand up by providing opportunity for putting our clients back to work. And so last, we also provide clothing as well. So those are the 4 pillars that our programs are focused on: housing, food, workforce development, as well as clothing. Thank you.
Thank you, Yvonne. And we will conclude this section of our panel with Belisa with Ser Familia.
Thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here sharing about the work that Ser Familia is doing. Ser Familia provides the tools, resources, and skills that Latino families need to move from crisis to thriving. What we mean by that is family services would be parenting classes, couples programs, youth programs. Then social services, we have domestic violence programs, support programs, and case management. We have a legal service that helps victims of crime that might qualify for immigration relief. Then the organization also does emergency assistance, rental assistance, utilities, food, even before the pandemic, but certainly during this time of crisis. And then we have mental health counseling services, which is very difficult to find in Spanish. Ser Familia is able to provide mental health counseling services, including services for small children. Before we open an office in Smyrna with that capability, Latino kids that don't speak enough English or their parents don't speak enough English who were sexually assaulted in our county did not have a place to go to get services. So that's one of the gaps that we cover in the community. We have 2 offices here in Cobb County, one in Kennesaw and one in Smyrna, and then 2 offices in Gwinnett, even though we serve clients from last year from 26 different counties.
Wow, that's great. Thank you so much, Belisa, and everyone for sharing this information with us and for definitely filling these gaps in the community with the services that you all offer. We can jump right into our panel discussion, and we can start with this question related specifically to the COVID-19 pandemic. What are some of the issues raised by COVID-19 specifically this year for your particular organization and the communities that you serve? And Belisa, we can start with you.
During the pandemic, we have served over 1,000 additional families on top of the ones that we normally serve. Very early in the process, our board decided that we were going to keep our offices open. So we have been serving clients in person, every day throughout the pandemic. We had provided support groups, parenting classes, counseling appointments, all of it on top of a massive emergency assistance relief. We have afforded almost $1 million. It's going to be over $1 million when the year ends, just in rental assistance. That is not counting, prepared meals. The Braves actually went ahead and cooked everything they had in their kitchens, and they delivered to our offices. So we were able to provide, hot meals for our families. We have done more than 200,000 pounds of grocery orders, food for families. So, we have seen a lot of need. Actually, Latinos were the first ones to be affected by the pandemic because they work in industries that were affected before, the hospitality industry, restaurants. And these are industries that have been affected and re-affected throughout the pandemic. Our families were in a very fragile state before all of this happened. So the pandemic is only digging a deeper hole for them. It's going to take months or maybe years for these families to get out of this. That is not counting the issues that our Latino kids have had because of all of this. Some statistics are telling us that Latino children are going to be more affected by this situation when it comes to education. So we are trying a pilot test in one of our Winnet offices in which we're providing tutoring 1 day a week, and it has gone really, really well. We're doing it in person because we did a study and only 10% of our families the children in our families have been able to complete schoolwork. So more than 90% have not been able to complete the schoolwork. So it's really, our kids are really getting affected by the situation.
Thank you, Belisa. Yvonne, what have you all seen at MUST this year in particular?
So in particular, we've faced three issues: the need for food, shelter, and volunteers. And the food need exploded, when schools and businesses began to close. And with the schools actually closed, and the school pantries that we have are mostly Title I schools. And so those families and children, they depend on getting their breakfast and lunch at school. And so we had to figure out a way to get the food to those families because we could no longer distribute from the schools. So we found out on Friday that the schools were closing, and we had to figure out a solution in a matter of 2 days in terms of how we were going to get food to those families. And so we partner with many churches in our communities to act as hub sites for us to distribute food boxes. We pivoted from our client choice model, which is a model where families come in and they actually choose the type of foods that their families like and enjoy. So we started distributing boxes of produce and food from local churches throughout the summer until we could get back into the schools in the August timeframe. We also had to do the same thing in our program services office at the 3 locations where families would normally come in and have access to food and clothing and employment services. Our focus when COVID hit was 2 things. We were going to focus on making sure that families had food and housing. And so we quickly developed a program called the Rapid Response Program and changed our whole model where those were the 2 areas that we were going to focus on. We kept our Elizabeth Inn shelter open. However, it was not enough. We didn't have enough beds to, for all the clients that were coming to us. So we were able to secure 23 rooms at nearby hotels for families and children. And so we were able to do that to help meet the basic need as well. And then last, volunteers. Our organization is dependent on volunteers. In a given year, we have 17,000 volunteers that help us deliver our services. And so we had to quickly pivot, and within the organization, we have a small staff of 85 employees. So, we had to all hands on deck. And people had to go out and do grocery shopping and jump in and help in other areas. So it was a situation where it was all hands on deck because, volunteers just were not able to come in. And many of our volunteers are retirees that are, not able to come in and to serve like they did in the past. So the food, the shelter, and the volunteers were the 3 areas that caused issues for us, but we were able to meet the needs of the community by continuing to provide food, provide shelter, which was our 2 focus areas.
Thank you, Yvonne. Natalie, what have you all seen with communities and schools?
Wow. Yvonne talking about the challenges that erupted when we left. She and I were talking a lot at that time about the food insecurities for students, because a lot of the students that we serve meet reduced food and free and reduced food eligibility, about 75% of our students. And we manage those food pantries in the schools where our site coordinators are. So immediately, yes, food and that collaboration and addressing those needs that are so severe in the schools and in our communities. And so we pivoted as well, that need to feed our families went beyond the school, of course, because a lot of these students, maybe their only hot meal that day comes from the breakfast or the lunch that they get. And if they are tardy for school, then they miss breakfast. So then they could only have one meal that day. So your heart goes out to worry about these kids so desperately just with that first issue. The second thing that came up was, the digital divide. Everyone has a cell phone or some kind of technology, but, we're not Marietta City Schools, was not a one district. Cobb County School District is not a one district. And so bridging that digital divide was one of our first priorities, as we learned that we were not going to be out for 2 weeks as we first anticipated, but for indefinitely for the rest of the school year. So we were able to secure some laptops for students, and other agencies provided laptops. So bridging that divide was one of the hurdles. Then you had to get kids to have the understand and have the literacy, logging on, parents having to support. So those challenges provided a lot of heft for our organization to help educate and empower the students to come in. And as time progressed and we learned that the differences were, that digital divide was going to be so imperative, that the students that were in school before and struggling, well, that challenge is so much greater of if you were struggling in Algebra 1 and you didn't get it then and you were failing and you were counting on the rest of the semester, then academically you were far enough behind that you just kind of checked out. And so, you were failing algebra, but then, a lot of students were passed in some of those classes. And so now they're in Algebra 2 and they're really lost. And so the digital divide is, and then on top of that was just connectivity. So we partnered with Comcast for Internet Essentials and helping parents understand, how to qualify for that and help students get connected through Comcast and other resources. Zoom overload, keeping these kids engaged is so difficult. They were online for, exponentially amount of time during the school day. They didn't have a lot of school during that time when we came back to school this year. It was 4 to 5 hours a day. Some days they're 9. Now, if you've chosen to go face to face, you're in school the whole day. But that student that remained virtual has a 8-hour day in front of this camera, and that's hard to hold your, to hold your attention. You feel so socially distanced and so on. I want to share quickly a story about a little girl I've thought so much about 80,000 times during this pandemic. This time last year, I was at one of our schools and there was this beautiful little girl that was walking around the halls, and it was actually the day after Halloween, and she did not get to go trick-or-treating. So her teachers were allowing her to go trick-or-treat in the different classrooms. And I met her and she was just joyful, and so happy to be getting, the Snickers or whatever. And then as she left, our site coordinator shared, I've been working with this little girl. And she said, her mother is incarcerated and her aunt is her caregiver. And I noticed that she was unkept. And so we've been working to try to support her. And we know that she has told me that she doesn't get a hot meal every night. She doesn't wear clothes that fit her because, of targeting and the mental abuse that's going on. And I worry about that little girl and about the thousands of other little children that we are able to see and put our eyes on and know what's going on in their schools because we're mandated reporters and we see them every day, and we can see if they're wearing the same clothes every day or if they're picking food out of the trash and putting it in their pocket or whatever they're doing that signals the crisis that's going on in their lives. And that's probably the biggest overwhelming issue for all of us, where we can find a laptop, we can find, different things to kind of hit that crisis. But what's going to happen to this generation of kids because of, the exit from education and the social and emotional problems? I think we will pay for generations to come.
Definitely. So issues that will have a long-term impact. It definitely sounds like. Thank you so much for sharing that story, Natalie. Dawn, what have you all seen at Aloha to Aging with the pandemic?
So we have seen the other end of the spectrum. So if you could imagine seniors, newly retired and retirees, oftentimes they're losing their purpose. And Aloha to Aging was an opportunity for them to create quality of life and value. And unfortunately, one of the key issues is the isolation and depression that automatically is naturally there at that age, oftentimes. And we've seen that increase exponentially. The other component is the physical decline. So the inactivity, whether it be due to the weather, or they're not getting outside, but they're not doing the exercise like they used to. And it's just, we've seen, unfortunately, we know how important it is, and that's why we started Aloha Day Club, is to ensure the activity cognitively, mentally, socially, emotionally. And so that's been a really difficult thing to watch, because it hasn't just been to the many participants, it has been to the participants of Aloha Day Club, the caregivers that are now not getting their break that they used to, but are 24/7 and isolated, especially where they're a high risk group, as well as our volunteers. And so that's been something that we have ensured to, as everybody said, we all pivoted that same day. Thankfully, we went right on to Zoom that next week. So we've been really fortunate to be able to provide the exercises weekly, the education weekly, the monthly caregiver support groups. And we've done all this for free, because what we did realize also that funds are limited. People are panicking with the stocks, and especially the aging. There have been so many issues financially, affordability, that we've been very, very fortunate to be able to provide. Actually, we had 128 programs. 78 were activity and education. So we've partnered with so many different amazing volunteers, professionals in the community, especially that we now have a YouTube channel. So that's been great, because if people missed it, the majority of the people we're serving, they're going to doctor's appointments. That's the only time they're leaving their home currently. One of the issues has always been for seniors is also technology. So as you all mentioned, technology, seniors oftentimes are not technology friendly. One of the things that we've seen that's been a beautiful gift is that we've seen children and grandchildren share their iPads and different things with their grandparents, and show them how to use it, so that they can not only do FaceTime, but also do the programs that we're providing. So that's been pretty amazing. And actually through the pandemic, we've been able to have 970 volunteer hours. So believe it or not, we also felt that this summer we wanted to give back to two of the entities that have been so very generous with in-kind space, both Mount Bethel United Methodist Church and Burnt Hickory Baptist Church. We've utilized their buildings for years now. And so we did a thank-a-thon, and that was a beautiful uplifting. We did videos, people made signs. That was really, again, something to lift everybody's spirits. So in addition to all the programs we've been doing, we wanted to do a big thank-a-thon. So we did that as well.
That's a great idea and a really good activity. It sounds from all of the issues that you'll have seen, it's things that are very basic to the community, from shelter to, mental health care and food, and add to that the lack of access to technology, and then the therapy and all of that. How have you all been able to keep your employees, volunteers, and the people that are out there helping through the pandemic safe? And Yvonne, we can start with you.
So we have again, we went from our client choice model in the pantries, where the food distribution was outside, and we boxed the food and did a drive-through model so that there would be not a lot of contact, where clients would just drive up, pop the trunk, and then a volunteer would put the food in the car. We closed our locations where folks could not, our clients could not actually physically come in, especially in the workforce development area, where we were meeting face to face with our clients, creating resumes, doing mock interviews to help them along with their interviews. So we created a portal and started doing the interviews, the mock interviews, and helping with their resumes online. So over Zoom, we shifted to technology to help in any way that we possibly can based on the service. And then at the Elizabeth Inn, we just had to contain the number of clients that we had in the shelter and not allow new clients to come in, and shifted them to the hotel. So we were very aware of, the issues facing our volunteers, being it's an aging population, and wanted to make sure that we were keeping them safe as much as possible.
Belisa, what kind of measures have you all taken throughout the pandemic to keep volunteers and employees safe as well? And even what challenges have you run into?
Obviously, you can imagine with all of those people, walking through our doors. One of the things that we realized was the need that we needed to have them not only to do the intake for emergency assistance, but also do a mental health assessment, in every person that walked through our doors. Do a domestic violence assessment. We have seen almost 100% increase in the number of victims that we serve. That is 112 or 115 more victims that we are serving. So what we have done is we enforced a mask mandate for our staff in March, and for every person that walked in the agency by the first week in April. We bought, special machines that steam everything. So we steam every table, every chair, everything. We clean pens, we clean surfaces. So it has become, an extra part-time job for each of us to ensure that we are able to sanitize everything. Then we have great partners in the community like Wellstar. In the beginning, when disinfectant wipes and gloves were so difficult to find, they were able to find those for us and ensure that we had them because we were seeing so many people. So it has been sanitizing, and then devising a protocol. We have seen 96 people with COVID in the office that we are aware of, that we knew that when they were coming to us, they were COVID positive. So we created a protocol for that. How do we serve somebody that needs food, but we know it's COVID positive? So we have been able to devise a way of doing, assessments in the car of the person that is coming. So it's creating protocols that we follow every day to ensure that we keep everybody safe, clients and staff.
It sounds like it's taking a lot of flexibility and pivoting from all of you to be able to continue the services you offer. Dawn, I know you turned a lot of things virtual to make sure you still were able to provide programs. Have you run into any challenges or what measures have you had to take to keep employees and volunteers safe?
So yes, we definitely have had some in-person programming. We do everything outside actually at East Cobb Park. So we've had concerts, we've had active programming, games, and then we've also partnered with the Cobb Senior Centers, and we've done in-person programming as well as provided virtually so that people could participate either way. All the different protocols, yes, everybody mask mandate, the temperature of everybody, even in the park. We want to make sure the waiver, cleaning everything before we utilize it. So yes, we absolutely did all those things as well. And I'd say as far as making it safe for these people that are at home, we made sure that the programming involved neurologists, therapists, grief counselors. So whatever we felt, mindfulness, different things, that stress management, the different things, education that we knew people needed to kind of get them through the isolation for safety and well-being.
Definitely. Thank you. Natalie, have you guys run into any challenges, or what measures have you had to take with site coordinators to keep everybody safe and still provide your services in schools?
Yes, well, so when we shut down, all of our site coordinators were still supporting the students. And so while we weren't in school, we did do trunk visits, porch visits. We would meet or support at the food distributions, places like that, always wearing a mask, always socially distanced. And because several of our site coordinators are also caring for elderly family members. And so in some way, shape, form, or fashion. So they've had different challenges with that. And we want to make sure that they are as safe as possible. So everyone wears a mask. We've got extra masks and hand sanitizer and so on for our students, so that if they get to school and they don't have those resources, then they can remain safe as well. So just trying to keep them as safe as possible. And we have had some programming in person. So like they met at a trail and did socially distanced walking, which was so great for just everything that you need to do. So our site coordinators have gotten really imaginative, and then the pivot of going to Zoom and those other opportunities. So, but yes, just trying to keep them safe, socially distanced, mask, and everything.
Yeah, definitely. It's been so important this year, especially, and I'm sure that a lot of those measures will even stay long term with some of the services, the programs that you offer. It's just it's almost part of everyday life. So, and I heard almost all of you mention partnerships that you've had in the community that have helped you and partner with you to allow you to continue to provide programs, and even additional ones this year. Are there any particular success stories that you would like to share about what you were able to accomplish this year, particularly because of COVID, that may not have happened, in any other year? Yvonne, we can start with you.
It has been overwhelming, the generosity that Must Ministries has obtained from individuals, corporations, foundations, with the financial resources that we have been given, and communities that have come together, neighborhoods, churches, businesses, sponsored food drives, because, when the pandemic exploded, food, as we all have seen in the news, cars lined up, with the need for food. So food it kind of dried up, if you will, with the Atlanta Community Food Bank. That's one of our strongest partners that we receive food. They were in the process of relocating. And so they had depleted most of their existing warehouse and was in the midst of moving. And so they were very limited in terms of the amount of food that we could get from the food bank. And so our neighbors, our churches, our businesses all came together and did food drives and donated food, came to our warehouse and helped pack food boxes. So many of the teachers that and social workers came out to the hubs at different locations outside of the schools and helped distribute those food boxes, because they care so much for the students and just to be able to lay eyes on them. So they help and volunteer to make sure that we got those food boxes out. Restaurants, just providing food. I just hate to mention, because if I start mentioning, I know I'll forget somebody, because it's just been so overwhelming in terms of the support that we have gotten from our community. And as we're into the Christmas season, every Christmas we do a toy shop, in 2 locations. And so the organizations and the businesses that have donated toys to us so families can still have Christmas, because as we know, so many families have lost jobs and cannot provide toys for their families. And so we have a location in Cobb and Cherokee where families actually, the parents come in and they shop for toys for their children. And so the donations that have come in from so many business and individuals that has allowed us to keep those 2 locations open and serve, the community. And so just, this year alone, we have served over 150 clients and with 1.6 million pounds of food. And that's because of the support that we've gotten from the community. And so just to do a little comparison, just from mid-March through November, that 150 clients that we serve, our last fiscal year, we served 33,000 clients as opposed to 150 since March. And so it's just been overwhelming, and we could not do what we do without the support of our community, our individuals, and our foundation. And it's been so many, it's just hard for me just to even throw out names because I would not dare miss anyone because everyone has played a part. And no matter how big or little, behind those numbers is a family, is an individual. Yeah. And we're just so very, very grateful.
Yeah, that is really, really great to hear, the outpouring of support for sure for all the organizations in the community. Belisa, what about at Surf Familia?
I would echo Yvonne's sentiment. We were floored in the beginning, the outpour of support. Many of our partners, what are you doing? What can we do to help? And then organizations that gave us a certain amount, they gave us that amount plus more. And during Christmas, we select some families, and instead of just buying toys in general, we just, create wishes for those families. The most we have ever done had been 22. So this year we did 32. So, we were just organizing things this morning, and, we ended up all of us crying because we have from wheelchairs to beds and cribs and Nintendo Switch, everything that you can think that those kids dream of, it's there in the office. So, the outpour from that's people, those are not companies, those are individuals that have come out. And I have always told my staff throughout all of this that this is changing us, this is transforming us, not only as an organization, but also as people. When you had to put milk in a child's car and that child started clapping, it changed you. You look at the world differently. You have seen poverty, desperation, and need to a level. I've been doing this for 21 years, and I could not even have imagined what I have seen since March. So I think that we feel blessed, first of all, to have each other. Our staff has been nothing but heroes. Nobody even questioned our idea. When I said we were going to do an in-person summer camp in July, I'm sure a couple of them scratched their heads, but they were all troopers. They were like, okay, we have done it so far, we can do this. And we served breakfast that first day, and every child put the scraps in their book bags. There was nothing left on the table. When an 11-year-old has the presence of mind of taking leftover pancakes home, is because the hunger in that house has to be something that is unbelievable. So yes, we are blessed from all of the support that we have been given through this emergency.
Yeah, that is really, really wonderful. Dawn, what have you all seen at Aloha?
I would absolutely say that the good has outweighed the bad as far as what we've been providing and who we've been serving. Some of the most beautiful things have been because the children are being homeschooled. The activities that we were providing are really multi-generational, many of them. And so we were able to see grandparents with their grandchildren participating in the games online. And one of the beautiful gifts was a gentleman who he's an actor, and due to the pandemic, obviously he wasn't working. And his dad used to come to our Aloha Day Club program, and his wife would come to our educational programs as well as our caregiver support. Well, Wednesdays is his day to take care of his dad, and so that was the day that we were doing a lot of the programming for that would have been in Aloha Day Club. And so he actually participated in that with his dad, so he can see the value that that was bringing to his dad, and saw his dad much more engaged than he normally was, because he knew the people and we knew him, and he'd been coming to our program for years. So that was a beautiful gift. And from that, he said he was so excited. He said, "I want to volunteer." So then he took his acting skills and then brought them to do a different activity for all of us one evening. So, we're really trying to grow people and make sure we still are that caring connection. And I would say without the professionals in the community and their support that have done the education for us, again, during this time, it's a little different. That's been a real positive thing, because everybody's able to see it. Now we have a YouTube channel. We've been able to record it. So if it didn't work for them to tune in at a 10 or 11 or 2, they've been able to see it at their own convenience. So I would absolutely say, we had almost 1,400 people tune in to us this year. And last year at the same time, it was double that. So for us to maintain a good amount and still have new people, again, we've got some people from Boston that are regularly in Florida and Tennessee. So we're feeling really positive and good about where we're moving. And hopefully now we'll be able to provide the virtual for those that can't make it in person when we do finally open up.
That's really great. Natalie, what have you all seen with communities and schools?
Well, we've had to make such a great big pivot, which is in turn almost eliminated one of our biggest barriers, which is transportation for our families and our students. And so by moving some of our programming to virtual, and eliminating it, we're able to reach people, kids and families better, maybe in smaller amounts, but we can do that. It's also expanded our opportunities that we've got ahead of programming. So instead of serving a program in one school, we can do a whole feeder pattern or a whole group of middle schoolers instead of just one middle school. So it's expanded our range and the depth of which we can do things. So, we had a great success in the year we had 91% of our students achieve graduation or grade promotion, which is really incredible for all of the kids that work so hard. So when I think about one of the biggest things that stands to me is that our families and our kids are just resilient. And then one of the things I keep going back to that I haven't, I can't even talk about it without crying, but in the heart of everything of what we learned is that Cobb County is so strong. And I was in a text change with several different community leaders, and we were trying to get something figured out to deploy food or something that was so needed. And this gentleman, a partner of mine, said, "We stand ready." And that just has overwhelmingly told me what Cobb has done. And for communities and schools and everybody else on this call, and even those nonprofits that aren't here, we just stand ready to give the helping hand that everybody needs. And we haven't stopped, and we won't stop, and we can't stop.
That is really great. I jotted down, when you tune into the news nowadays, you see stats like this. I wrote them down to share. It was 20 million people claiming unemployment, 6.7 million renters risk eviction, 50 million expected to go hungry in our country. And to see all of the partnerships and all of the help that's been able to be done in our hyper local community is really, really great and really inspiring. So thank you all for everything that you're doing. I know you're serving different communities and different needs, and it's all being done so well. So we really, really thank you for being part of our panel today and sharing all of this information. We have a couple of questions coming in through the Q&A. But to wrap up the panel discussion, and because we are in the holidays near the end of the year, I'd like to ask each of you to share what you're hopeful for, what you hope for your organization and for your community in this coming year. Yvonne, can we start with you?
Absolutely. I'm hopeful that every family that needs food and shelter will have food and shelter. We have, we're in the process of rolling out a mobile pantry because one of the things that we realized, and Natalie alluded to, the transportation issue. And we were really caught off guard when the schools closed and had to figure out how are we going to get food to these families, because we know that the children and the families depend on food from the schools. And so we are hopeful that we will roll out a mobile pantry so that we can get to families that are in need that cannot get to where the food is being distributed. So I'm just hopeful that every child and every family will have food and a place to lay their head at night.
Thank you, Yvonne. Dawn, what are you hopeful for your community and organization this coming year?
Well, I am hopeful that this high-risk group can actually meet in person on a regular basis, because I think that's fear, and I don't want fear to rule where we're going, because we know how the isolation is just so difficult for them, especially. But my hope is that we actually are putting together activity bags. So much like the kids have the school bags, the seniors will have the activity bags that will have the balls, the bands, the weights, all the different things for exercises, as well as all the activities that we do, music, the games, and that those will be distributed to those seniors that could hopefully take part in our online programming that will be starting pretty much like a mobile Aloha Day Club. So we're actually very excited about that.
Thank you, Dawn. Belisa, what are you hopeful for this year?
Certainly, I'm hopeful for our families getting better, starting to thrive again, especially, with all the intra-family violence that we are seeing. We are hoping for more peaceful families, for children that are getting raised in an environment that is healthier.
Thank you, Belisa. Natalie, what are you hopeful for communities and schools?
Well, I am hopeful for the vaccine success and for the fear of the vaccine, of the unknown, to be deterred, and education for that, so that our schools can go back in school without fear, and we can bring our partners and our mentors and our tutoring and everything else back into the schools where the students feel safe, and we can hug them and love them and just take care of our kids and our families. I am so hopeful for the chance to go back to move from this state of giving fish to teaching people to fish, which is what we're trying to do, what our core is. And I'm hopeful that we can continue to inspire our students and families when today seems just too overwhelming.
Thank you all so much for sharing that. And I think this is the perfect way to wrap up our panel discussion and go into our Q&A, filling us with hope and positivity for the next year, with amidst everything that's going on in the world today. One of our questions that came in through the Q&A that a lot of members are asking is, how can they get plugged in to the organization? So if you all could share maybe 2 things that they could do today to support your organization. Belisa, can we start with you?
Certainly. They can go to our webpage, which is going to be shared at the end of the presentation, and they can make a donation, especially for families that are in dire need of support immediately. And also they can connect with us. We still have volunteer opportunities, and we still have opportunities to plug in resources in the community with the needs of the families that we serve.
Thank you. Yvonne?
So we still have a need for food. If you, organizations, individuals that can do food drives and make donations for food at our donation center. If for remote, because I understand that a lot of people are still not comfortable coming into volunteering. And so some of our remote projects are hygiene kits. That is always a need for individuals and families for hygiene, because those are products that cannot be bought on food stamps. So we're always in need of hygienes, and we need hygiene kits. And we do have instructions for how to put those together, along with no-sew blankets. Individuals can create those as well. And we have instructions that I can share with how to put the hygiene kits together and the no-sew blankets as well. And then, of course, food, and then donations are always welcome.
Thank you, Yvonne. Natalie?
Thank you. So you can go to our website will be shared as well at cismcc.org, and you could make a donation to help sponsor a child in our program. You could help make a donation for basic needs for toiletries and things like that that students need, tutoring, mentoring, jackets. We partner with Operation Warmth, which is also part of COBB and provide jackets and coats to students in need. And there's still a great need for that, and school supplies. So your contributions are very welcome for us. If you have ever thought about being a mentor, this is a great opportunity for that, and reach out to me about that as well through the website or my email. And we do a background check for you, but connecting with those students is now virtual because we can't go into the schools, which takes out that transportation barrier. And so we can connect you with a small group of students or students and that need so much more than what we can give through this box.
Thank you, Natalie. And Dawn?
So I would say absolutely the donations, especially for the activity bags, those are going to cost about $100 per person. But actually our biggest need really are volunteers that have special either talents like music, art, or they just are fun-loving attitude, games, and as well as professionals that can speak intelligently and yet in a manner that's very receptive and engaging to our caregivers, our volunteers, and our participants. I'd say that would be very helpful, especially we're still in this pandemic and we're not going to be, really in person. So the programming that we're doing is virtual. So if we could plug in 45 minutes of your day, once a month or something, and then really just plug in and see what it is that we do provide, because we do multi-generational programming, like I mentioned. So like Wednesdays would be great, as well as the aging simulation that we provide is very insightful. And that would be something that people could tune in and better understand why we are and have been around for 11 years and we're not going anywhere, because we're needed for the unique programming that we provide.
Thank you, Dawn, and thank you all so much for sharing that. We will make sure that when we send the email out to attendees, we have the links to the nonprofits and then the information of the initiatives that you've mentioned today so that they can plug in and help with that. We did receive another question. If anyone listening today or anyone they know is in need of assistance, where should they go? So we can definitely share each of the nonprofits' websites, and then we also have our COBB Community Foundation website with lists of organizations there as well that we can share so that you can find out more information and if you need assistance. But is there anything in particular that you all would like to share if someone is in need of your specific service, where they can go to find more information or to obtain that service? Belisa, would you like to share?
Sure. They can go to our website, which is www.serfamilia, serfamilia.org, or they can call us at 678-363-3079.
Thank you. And Natalie?
Yes, they can go email me directly at nrutledge@cisgeorgia.org, or give us a call at our office at 678-503-0901. And we can help direct you. If we can't support you, we can help give you the trail of where to go that we can support you.
Thank you, Natalie. And Dawn?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the email, info@alohaaging.org. We can get that and just give us your information, what it is that you'd like some help with, or you can go online, the www.alohaaging.org, and you can see all the different things that we help with. And certainly if we can't help you, particularly, we would certainly at least give you some resources that should be able to help you with things as well.
Thank you, Dawn. And Yvonne?
Mustministries.org, or you could reach us at 770-427-9862.
Thank you, Yvonne. And thank you all again for participating. This will conclude the panel portion of our webinar today. Thank you again to our panelists for all that you've shared today. We can all certainly do our part or help in any way that we're capable of when we are aware of exactly what needs there are in the community. So that's very, very helpful. We will be again sharing contact information for each organization. We have the information on screen and then via email. And I will now introduce Vicky Tardif. Vicky, she's the vice chair of our COBB Community Foundation. COBB as a company has many community outreach initiatives. For example, employees collect diapers, they collect soup cans throughout the year to support other organizations. But we also have our COBB Community Foundation that supports organizations in our area at larger scale. So I will hand it off to Vicky to tell us a little bit more about the foundation and how the foundation has been impacted this year. Thank you very much.
Hi, everybody. Yes, I am part of the COBB Community Foundation, and it was founded in 2013 as a way to give back to the community in our territory. And I'm very happy to say that each of these wonderful 4 charities that spoke this morning, we have been able to donate funds to each of those, and you can see they're doing wonderful things in our community. The foundation is funded by a program called Operation Roundup. And in your electric bill, members select to have their bill rounded up to the next full dollar every month. And those funds allow us to give back to the community and help our members. It's truly amazing that just from the small amount of rounding your bill up to the next dollar, it may cost the members that donate $6 a year on average. And with that, we can come up with about somewhere around $70,000 a month that we can give back to local charities. Since we began this program, we have donated over $5,854,000 back into the community. And to apply for this, if you're a 501c3 that is helping and funding people in our community, then you can go to the COBB website, and under the My Cooperative tab, you'll see a link for the Community Foundation, and there it will show you things that we've been doing recently, and there's a link to an application. When the pandemic hit in April, we realized that there were a lot of people that were hurting, and we were really concerned that we might not be able to help them quickly enough because we only review applications once a month. So we changed our process and started looking at things on a weekly basis, and we allowed charities that we had previously vetted and had received funding from us to go ahead and apply through an emergency funding application. We looked at those every week and were able to quickly get money back to these charities. And at that time, we were really trying to focus on just basic needs: food, clothing, shelter, medical assistance, things that we were really concerned that there was a great need for in our community. And in the month of April, we were able to assist 25 charities through this and contribute $76,000 back into the community. Unfortunately, we realized at the end of April that COVID was going to be with us much longer than just 1 month. And we were not going to be able to keep up this weekly process of reviewing applications. So we did go back to our normal monthly process, but we still continue to receive applications every month from charities that are being affected by COVID, and we've done our best to assist with the funds that we have each month. These are the 25 charities that received emergency funding from us in April. And again, on the COBB website, you can see every month the charities that receive funding from us. And here again is a link to our contact information. You can email us at foundation@cobbmc.com or give us a call at 678-355-3271.
Thank you so much, Vicki, for sharing all that information. And I will now hand it over to Chris to close us off. Thank you.
And thank you, Vicki, so much, and for all the good work that you and the COBB Community Foundation do every month for our communities. And thank you all so much for a great and impactful conversation today. Before we close, I did want to share a little bit about what COBB has done throughout the pandemic for our employees and our community as well. As a company, safety is always our priority. Those employees that were able to work from home have been doing so safely since the start of the pandemic. We also put in place several safety measures to keep our employees on campus safe as well, and for our linemen in the field to ensure that there's no disruptions to our reliability and service to our members. Our employees have been able to safely support local organizations who are feeding vulnerable families and seniors in our service area. And we especially want to thank those members who helped us to make and collect thousands of masks through the Make a Mask Challenge, as well as collect books for the civilians who at the beginning of the quarantine at Dobbins were stationed there for their quarantine, and also at the Clay National Guard Center. You can learn more about all of our responses to the pandemic at cobbmc.com/COVID-19. And so if you are still on the webcast, you are officially eligible for today's drawing. 10 members joining us today will win a $25 bill credit. We will be sending out an email to everyone who joined us today with a recording of the event, links to all of these organizations' web pages to learn more, and a brief survey. And in that email, we will also let you know if you were a winner. And again, thank you so much to all of you for joining us today and for your interest in helping our community. And we wish everyone a very happy holiday. Thank you so much.